Hello, everyone. Dina, hello. It is that time of the year, yes, 2026, to be thinking about what am I doing with my sport nutrition program? Because today we're going to talk and address the topic of, is it time to change your sport nutrition program? So everyone has all these great goals this year and races and events and training, and it's fantastic, right? This is the time of the year, D, where we just get jazzed. We're like super pumped up, like, oh, we're going to do this. But oftentimes I feel like a lot of people may, if you're doing something different with your events or training or whatever, maybe you're still doing the same thing with your sport nutrition program, or maybe you're doing something completely different that may require a different sport nutrition program. So we're going to dive into, Dean and I are just going to have a little like armchair coffee talk. Like, is it time to change your sport nutrition program? Very simple question, but probably very complex answers and with a few little different paths to take. So Dina, let's turn it over to you on, from a really big overview, when do you think it might be time for some of our listeners to think about changing their sport nutrition program, if they even need to?
I know, Bob, I'm sometimes so loyal to, and many are, right? Like I've always used this product or these sets of products, and I'm just so loyal. I like the company or their ethics or whatever. Well, I don't want to change. Yet there are sometimes signs that we actually should branch out a little bit. But I'm kind of just here as we get going, Bob, admitting that even myself, products that I've used for, 15 years or something, like I kind of still don't want to give those up.
It is hard sometimes, isn't it? Because it also works for your digestive system, which is another path to take, right?
And that might be the question, is how do you know when it isn't working anymore? Or how do you have proof and evidence that it really is still working?
Yeah.
As we're here in this new year, taking a few minutes to reflect on the past year and events or things that you did athletically and how you fueled those events and races and so on. Did you forget how it all went down? Meaning, did you have a DNF due to some nutritional issues, GI issues? That would be like so obvious here, Bob, to bring up. But I think so many athletes over and over doing the same thing, expecting different results. When are you ready to actually be truthful and honest with yourself and open to trying some different approaches with your sport nutrition choices or timing and all of the things that we talk about a lot here on this podcast?
Yeah, and I think to that point too, Dee, I think it takes, in my experience with athletes, it takes an A race fail to push them, right? It like B races. I mean, if you want to classify A, B, and even C, but there's really no such thing as a C race. That's just training. But like even a B race, that's not your main race of the season or event. You might be like, oh yeah, it happened, but you forget about it, right? Because it's a B race. You're like, but you'll remember if it's an A race, like you're paying good money for registration, travel, like whatever you've spent, 6 to 12 months, if not longer, training for it. You're going to remember a nutrition fail in an A race. And I feel like that's enough to move the needle to answer the question, is it time to change your sport nutrition program? Oh, yes, absolutely. Right. But I feel like, so I almost think like that's an obvious, or that should be more of an obvious one, right? Because it's either a digestive system issue or a just under fueling, like lack of energy. Like I'm not getting the power output. I'm not getting the pace per mile, minute per mile. My heart rate is too high, like whatever. That I feel is pretty obvious, right? I feel like this is what I want to bring up. And we can certainly come back to that, but I do feel like the digestive energy level is obvious. Yes, you should change it 100%, right? If something is happening. Now, if it's not this is the hard part. This is where I see the difficult part is, well, if those things aren't happening, you've been okay. Like your performance has been okay. Maybe not stellar. Maybe you haven't smashed through a PR or whatever it is, right? Or just hit your goals. Then it's tough because here's the noise that we're trying to sift through as sport dietitians right now is there are so many sport nutrition products on the market. OMG, right?
Yeah.
Because of the new research that has driven sport nutrition manufacturers to create new you name it, from drinks to powders to chews to bars, I mean, gels, you name it. That's where it becomes confusing because Dee, I'm sure you see this with your athletes, your clients too, but I have a lot of my athletes just questioning, right? It's not that their sport nutrition program is not working, but they're like, hey, is this product better than what I have been using? Or will it get me to a better place from a performance perspective or recovery or whatever it is? And that's the confusing part right now, Dee. Because we've talked about these on previous episodes, like the whole carbohydrates or the glucose to fructose ratio and the different products and the different even things like UCAN that's been around for so many years and they were kind of a pioneer early on, and now there's new research that is targeting a whole different side of carbohydrate feeding, right? With the whole glucose fructose ratio. So, this is why it gets confusing. So, if you're going to ask me, I do want to talk about the types of events also, so let's remember that. But if you were to ask me, just based on what I said, is it time to change your sport nutrition program? I would say it's time to take a closer look at your sport nutrition program to make sure that everything you're doing is on par with your goals based on the resources in the sport nutrition manufacturer, product market. That's kind of how I would sum that up.
Especially with the movement, I guess we'll leave out our perspectives on the movement, but with the movement to higher carb fueling, and that message that's out there is if you are one who is progressing that with, let's say, your endurance fueling 4 to 6 hour plus events and looking to dramatically or even it doesn't, I don't know how to quantify that exactly, but let's say it's 20 to 30 grams of carb per hour more than what you've been doing. And beyond that, looking at the 100 gram plus per hour carb fueling strategies, this I think is an opportunity to take a closer look at the products you're using, the timing and all of that. As you noted, with the array of products available in the formulations, it's perfect time. And that can then better support what you're looking to achieve, if that's right for you.
And yes, and on that topic, we're going to have some very special guests this year talking about this specifically, like the high carb movement, if you will, both athletes and researchers and a little bit of both. But I feel like, Dee, there's also noise, not only in products, but there's also noise out there in the sport nutrition market with athletes, because we're hearing a lot on athletes doing certain nutrition feeding strategies, mostly carbohydrate alterations, right, from what we've seen, and having some pretty decent success, albeit they are elite athletes, they are not recreational, and they have been tinkering or implementing this for months, if not years on end, to figure this out. So I kind of hear this from some of my athletes I work with, recreational athletes, who are like, oh, well, I'll just do that the week before and, alter it. And I'm like, oh no, see, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Right. So again, there's just some more noise out there in terms of products, but also people with different messages that are N of one. And I am not discounting N of one, because I firmly believe N of one drives new research, new ideas, but we do have to remember it is N of one, right? And we have to look at the ability level and the competitiveness level of athletes also.
For sure. I'm wondering too, Bob, type of sport. I mean, if we categorize like our endurance versus team sport, or within that further breaking it down, or even age differences. I mean, you just referred to professional or elite versus recreational, but how do you see some of those decisions coming in line with type of sport or effort level and some of those aspects?
Yeah, and we could be here for days on this podcast. Don't worry, listeners, we won't. But if we talk about the different sports, that's just, that's a Pandora's box, right? Absolutely, 100%. Like, oh my gosh, what about swimming? What about triathlon? What about hiking? What about fast? What about this? Well, instead of that, what I like to do is categorize based on energy systems, right? So if we look at aerobic and anaerobic dominance, obviously there's going to be components of aerobic in just about every activity. Anaerobic, though, is kind of what separates it, right? And that's what gets my attention, and that's what drives me to really answer or ask the question, do we need to change your sport nutrition program? And here's a great example is that, like from last year, I was doing more like ultra running stuff, right? And slower, and still it's hills. There's still some anaerobic, pushes here and there. But then this year I'm still doing trail running, not super ultra, but I'm adding a different level of intensity by doing obstacle course racing. So within that aerobic trail running, which will still be a longish distance, now I have all these anaerobic bursts throughout, right? Mm-hmm. That gets my attention in terms of these are the times where we need to ask the question, do you need to change your sport nutrition program? Like I'm very loyal to sport nutrition products for certain energy system dominance training or events, right? But if you're going to go from, trying to finish Leadville 100 run in under 30 hours to trying to do, let's just say like an obstacle course race that might take you 2 hours, but like super high intensity, there's going to be a difference in sport nutrition programming. Absolutely. Yeah. Hands down. And that's where it gets really into the weeds a little bit, but that's where carbohydrate sources, timing, quantities really do change a little bit. And that's what I want to bring up to our listeners is like, what are you doing this year for events? And that will help you kind of backtrack into what kind of training are you doing. If you're doing a little bit more zone 4, zone 5, higher intensity, then yeah, it probably is time to change your sport nutrition program if you haven't been doing that before, right? Yeah. And then the exact opposite is true. What if you come from more of an anaerobic based dominant sport, and let's call it 5K, 10K running, and now all of a sudden you're training for your first 50K or 100-mile run. It works the same way, right? You're just trying to do that in reverse a little bit. So there will be some sport nutrition program changes. So, but unfortunately, as we've seen, a lot of people have those thoughts of like, oh, hey, you know what? This always has worked for my gut, which is great. That's actually the first thing you should make sure it works with is your digestive system, but it may not work for your energy management levels, right? For a new energy system contribution, if that makes sense.
And maybe along with this is just the perception of what it is you're feeling, fatigue, that energy, despite, this is aerobic or some anaerobic nature is, and again, this could tie to other things, nutrient deficiencies or something going on with sleep and the other things in life. But if you're just feeling flat and not making the progress, those adaptations, I mean, there's so many other hours in the day for fueling and recovery and honoring all the other elements. But this could be something going on within workout and that over time is just not promoting those adaptations as well.
Yeah.
Again,
it's a good point.
Could be just part of a long checklist that we could talk on hours for, but it's possible that fueling strategy warrants some closer look.
Yeah. And I'm speaking from experience because I'm literally going through this as we speak on this episode, right? Because I have changed my training. I am doing more anaerobic. And while I still have like some zone 2 aerobic stuff in there because of the obstacle course race that I'll be doing is it's a Spartan race, right? It is an ultra distance. So I'll be still doing like running a 50K, but a lot of obstacles, anaerobic based obstacles. So because my training has changed, so I'm doing more explosive things, I've noticed like a very early fatigue, not recovering as quickly on the same sport nutrition program that I've used previously meaning last year, right? So this has been almost a wake up call for me too. And like, oh, that's why this episode is so like near and dear to my heart. Cause I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm literally living this right now. Like I'm currently changing my sport nutrition program. And I'm still early in on this, with my change in training. Cause it is still January, but, it's like what I've done is I'm actually trying to manipulate my carbohydrate intake from real food sources first, just to see what my digestive system can handle. That's not poo-pooing sport nutrition products at all, but I'm just seeing what my system can handle because in the event that I'll be doing, there is some continuous zone 2 running. Then there will be very high intensity bursts, probably I would say 30 seconds to maybe 3 minutes, and then zone 2 running again. You know what I mean? So it's kind of up and down. So I'm seeing what my body can tolerate, specifically my digestive system. So I'm playing, like I'm doing it from a food first, and then I will move to sport nutrition supplements and products because I know they will be needed. But I just want to see what I can do with food first, because sometimes it's easier. Like, honestly, it might be easier to carry a baggie of dates with me sometimes. I don't know, right? Versus like a whole bunch of gels. I like, that's what I'm going through right now. So I feel like a lot of our listeners are probably like, oh yeah, like, yeah, I carry nuts or nut butter or dates or whatever with me. Should I do that? Should I do gels? Well, it does depend on your digestive system, but it also depends on the level of effort that you are producing from an energy system standpoint. So please remember this. Not only is digestive system important, but also if you're training more in an aerobic state versus anaerobic state. And here's the other thing, D, which I feel like we should bring up, is periodization of training. So throughout 7 days in a week, you may have some days that are like zone 1, zone 2 training. You may have some days that are strength training that are just like basic strength training. They're like maybe zone 2, zone 3, maybe some pushes every so often, but there's so much rest involved with those, right?
Yeah.
And maybe some days you're doing like, plyometrics or hill sprints or, track workouts where it's super high intensity. So I feel like the obvious answer to the question, is it time to change your sport nutrition program, is yes, because from a training periodization standpoint, we don't do the same thing every single day, right? I'm not going to eat dates every single training session, right? It just, because there are different energy needs.
It's a really good point. I think it gets overlooked or just underappreciated.
Yeah. Even, like a lot of our athletes, I'm sure you have the same thing. They like, they buy, especially early in the year, this time of the year, they're like, oh, I'm going to get all my sport nutrition supplements now for the season. I'm like, great. But that it's good that you have them, but we actually might cycle through them at certain times of the year. So you may not always use those based on your training or events, right? Just because they've worked in the past. Now, again, the other example is, what if we have an Ironman athlete, maybe recreationally competitive, same level from year to year, like they want to get a little better, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of a thing. If they're trying to do the same thing this year that they did last year or very similar, maybe it is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So it is, you have to kind of put everything in context.
I was going to joke, Bob, well, maybe it's time to change sport nutrition because I want to try the strawberry cream flavor.
Oh, yeah.
And not just the watermelon anymore.
It's true, right?
But
it's
true. Flavor, variety. Those are, again, just some subjective things. Just trying to keep it interesting.
I know. Well, and that's why we see so many flavors on the market. I often question that. I'm like, I get that if you're doing longer distance things, because you will definitely get palate fatigue, right? You need some variety. Yeah. But if you're not doing, like, I don't know, well, maybe under 4, 5, 6 hours, something like that. If you're doing something under that, it's functional. It's just providing what it needs to provide. It shouldn't be like a taste thing, because you should not get palate fatigue in that shorter, air quotes, right? Shorter amount of time. Well, I'm kind of curious, Dee. I want to dip into you really quick. Can we look into Dina's, goals in terms of how your sport nutrition program may change this year? And you don't have to tell us your goals, but are you going to change your sport nutrition program?
There's a long pause here, Bob, while I think about the answer. I mean, I think due diligence as a sport dietitian is to dabble and explore
for sure.
Along with testing data, because I'm still more endurance focused at the moment. So I do intend to change my strategy, but I think we will table some of that for another conversation.
Got it.
Yeah.
But I think the important message is, yes, we always, because of what we do, we always tinker with that. But in addition, we want to try these products because we want to be educated enough to provide some feedback to our athletes, to our clients. But also just biasly, listen, if it's not working for us, we're going to try something different, right? Or if something's really working, I just feel like it's always time to ask the question, do I need to change my sport nutrition program? But I don't know what the percentage would be out there, but maybe, I don't know, D, maybe 10, 20% of people listening are like, you know what? I'm good. I don't have any digestive system issues. Energy level is good. Recovery level is good. I'm doing about the same type of sport or effort level that I did last year in terms of training and events, then yeah, maybe you don't even need to ask this question. But I kind of feel like, because people like different flavors, so to speak, sometimes they try new things. It is January. They're setting new realistic goals and stuff, and maybe some unrealistic goals. Maybe those are you guys are the listeners who are like, yeah, I think I might need to relook at this, right? Because I'm going off on a limb here. I'm really going. I'm stretching myself with these kind of outside the box goals here. Like I want to do something different. And maybe if you want to do something different, maybe your sport nutrition program needs to support that different.
It is a good time to not only ask this question, Bob, right, but to explore some different products. Again, the periodization piece is important here because I think, if I'm doing my 3-mile run, I probably am not loading up on 100 grams of carbs from these new gels that I want to try. So being specific and intentional about that, and, nerdy, you can document your experience, look at your metrics, your subjective experience and all this stuff to build your plan eventually, or having that data accumulation to make then what your event plan is, or working with Sport Dietitian to figure that out. But I think that is the beauty and sometimes frustration, with looking at the array of products is like, where do I even start? If I am answering the question, yes, I think it's time.
And I will put this out here as we kind of wrap this up, Dee, we'll be talking about this throughout the year in terms of gut training, right? Because there's this huge movement right now with high carbohydrate feedings, gut training, and we're going to have some special guests on this year to address that for sure. And we'll talk about it also throughout the year. But I would just say this as we get close to closing out this episode is, if you are thinking about changing your sport nutrition program where you will significantly increase your carbohydrate consumption per hour during training and or racing, please start early. Like, you have to train your gut. There's not one set protocol that works for everyone. What we do know is that you need at least a few months to train your gut to be able to handle that increase in carbohydrates. So with it being January, D, if any of our listeners have any races around May, like April, May, please reach out to a qualified sport dietitian who knows what they're doing in terms of how to implement these gut training protocols, because it is really N of 1 at this point. And do it now, right? If you've got a later season race, you've got a little more wiggle room here, but only if you're planning on trying to really increase that carbohydrate consumption during training is the time to look at that right now.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, I think we've answered the question, but we didn't really answer the question. I think we did, right? Well, it's so individual, right? It's so N of 1, but hopefully listeners, you have an idea like, oh, you know what? Those are really good thoughts and good points that Dee and I bring up. I bet a lot of you are going to hop on over to our Patreon account. What do you think, Dee?
Yeah.
I think they will. And if you haven't joined, we have a free community over there. And if you haven't joined yet, join our free community. It's patreon.com/ISN podcast. I have a feeling that a lot of our listeners are going to be going over there, D, and being like, hey, I have this question, right? They're going to be because that's how you get access to Dina and I, right? You just type in your question, let us know what you're thinking, or, what you have for us. And, we'll respond to you. We love going back and forth with all of you great listeners over in our Patreon community. So we would welcome that, because I kind of feel like this is more of a confusing time and topic, just because there are so many options out there, D. I mean, even you and I get confused with all the options, right? This is what we do for a living, right? It's tough to keep up on all this, let alone answer the question, which product should I use, or what should I do right now, right? So that's why we're here, right? Ask us some questions, engage with us.
The link for our Patreon community is in the show notes, so you can click that, or just download the Patreon app real quick, like after you're finished listening to this episode, and look for us, ISN Podcast. All right, Bob. Well, I look forward to hearing more about your fueling strategy over in our Goal Level Patreon as you prepare for your events this season. And listeners, thanks so much for being here with us today. We will catch you on our next episode.